Hi, we are the group Shadow Company, and our group research presentation was on stress. The research presentation is brought to you by Carlos Fuentes, Brandy Riley, and Jaylene Portillo. My area within this project was focusing on the importance of social support and its correlation into helping those that are going through high stress levels. I wanted to focus on the different types of social supports that students used, whether it was counseling or faculty members or friends, family, just looking at the various social supports that students used and the impact that it had on their mental health. So some of the issues that I ran into regarding my topic was just trying to find articles that I felt would provide me with more than enough detail to be able to back up my topic and being able to support exactly what I was looking for, as well as providing multiple research methods to collect data for the results. So a lot of the articles that I did find would address students' mental health, but it would be in relation to just school, or it would be like, oh, nursing majors or pre-med majors have higher levels of stress than other majors. So it would focus on their majors and their mental health in school rather than focusing on the outlets that they use to help them deal with whatever type of stress they might be going through. So my hypothesis for this was that individuals that leaned on social support in times of high stress felt like their mental health was better. The methods that were used to gather the research was the questionnaire that we used on Google Forms that we had participants fill out, and the procedure was to collect data from the answers that were provided from our participants. And we wanted to do this in order to gain a better understanding of the stress that college students were enduring and the way that they decided to cope or the way they decided to handle their stress. For the participants, we did make it known that this was a voluntary basis for the participation, and they were also offered the chance to withdraw from the survey if they wanted to at any point in time. We did feel like maybe some of the questions might have been too personal for them to where they may have wanted to withdraw from the survey. If they wanted to withdraw, they were advised to email a professor if they wanted to discontinue, and they were also made aware that they would not receive any financial compensation for participating in the survey. The materials that we used for data collection was the Google Forms survey, which was used to collect the answers from the participants, as well as the SPSS to input all of our variables and answers into the software in order to produce our graphs for the data that we decided to compare. Since I wanted to compare the amount of students that sought social support and how they rated the importance of having social support, I decided to do a scatter plot. And I found out that there were individuals that actually did not lean on social support, and they would rate its importance lower than those that did constantly lean on social support during times of high stress. So in relation to my hypothesis, the people that did not lean on social support, they felt like their mental health was still considered to be well without having that social support. And they prefer to rely on other outlets such as meditation or journaling or going to the gym and just doing stuff like that versus using actual people or counselors or their friends and family as an outlet. And also they thought that social support can be important, but they did, let us know that they didn't like relying on other people, or they thought that it could potentially make their stress worse. Like people might have the right intentions, but sometimes it doesn't make the situation better. It can actually make it worse.
Stress has a significant impact on students' mental and physical health, particularly during periods of heightened academic demands. The background of this issue can be traced to increased pressure to excel academically, meet deadlines, and balance social and personal responsibility. It can also cause chronic stress, especially when related to stress, exams, workload, performance expectation. Triggered to a biological stress response can impair immune functions, increase anxiety, and contribute to mental health issues like depression. My hypothesis to my question is higher level self-reported stress are associated with lower overall well-being scores among university students. My methods and data. This study correlation designed to examine the relationship between self-reported stress levels and overall well-being among students. The objective was to determine whether higher stress levels are associated with lower well-being scores. The data that were collected was anonymous online survey distributed among students at Long Beach City College. The participants was voluntary and was informed consent obtained digitally before completing the survey. They collected responses were imported into SPSS for analysis. Results and finding. The analysis was conducted on survey responses of 27 students to examine the relationship between perceived stress levels and overall well-being. The scatter plot displayed a clear downward trend, with most data clustering around stress and lower well-being scores.
And I'll be talking about the areas and hypotheses with our group. What I mainly focus on was the stress and negative impact of students' mental health and academic performance, which pretty much as a group, we were focused on the topic of stress and the daily lives of college students, and pretty much if students with social high support have lower or better mental health well-beings, and then if stress negatively impacts the students' mental health and academic performance. The methods that were used to gather the data was using the form of Google Forms, pretty much in the form of questionnaire to gather, having participants answer the questionnaires answer the questions on the questionnaire that were placed. The responses were kept anonymous to encourage honest answers and pretty much to gather better results as overall. And then once we got all the data, we was pretty much analyze and examine the relationship between stress and social support using the SPSS to sort the data. And then the results and finding that I gathered pretty much was the image shown on the right. Is the results I found were to examine the data, and I found that stress and work have an interesting finding for students that pretty much work there 40 to 50 hours, give or take, while the stress levels start to increase around 35 to like 40 to 50, pretty much the hours. So those the stress level rate starts increasing, and the students pretty much have their stress up there.
So for our group, we did have different hypotheses. Some of them were pretty similar, but overall they're pretty different. But despite that, we did find out that our research kind of concluded all to the same thing. And so our research concluded that students that were experiencing high levels of stress, regardless of wherever it was originating from, that could have been school, work, any type of personal issues, or etc., that there was an overall decrease in their mental well-being, and that this decrease in their mental well-being would have then prompted them to want to seek out other outlets in order to cope with those high amounts of stress that they were under. So for future direction, shortcoming, limitations, there was quite a few for our group. We do believe that if we had offered more detailed questions, that it could have helped with our research. So despite us getting a good amount of responses, it was hard trying to assign some numerical values just based on the responses that we did receive. So one of our issues that we ran into was that some of the participants, that they would fill in worded answers when it should have been numerical answers to give us that numerical data. So we did find ourselves having to assign numerical values just based off the responses that they said. So that was just a little bit difficult for us. As for future directions, we did like the ideas that some of the other groups had, to where inside of their survey they included outside links to another survey that they would have the participants fill out, and there would be some sort of scores depending on like their personality or whatever it was related to their topic, and they would link that into their survey for additional data they could incorporate into their research. So we did feel like that might have allowed them to have some more concrete findings just based off having that additional survey that could have provided them with more answers regarding people's personalities, because we do know that despite us trying to come up with questions to the best of our abilities, that they're not always the most detailed or the most thorough. And if you're able to find some other surveys that might relate to your topic in some sort, and it's produced a lot of good, valuable output, that you can link that and it can help you with your research findings. Some other shortcomings or limitations that we did experience was trying to properly incorporate our consent form, and to try to make it not to make it was kind of tedious. So we wanted to make it a little bit different than the ones that we saw in the examples. But we just wanted to make sure that it just didn't seem like, okay, let's get going to the actual research questions. So we just wanted to make it a little bit fun or a little bit different for people and not make it seem like it was kind of like a tedious chore. And also for us, we did feel like it was a little bit of a struggle making our survey seem like it fit as a whole and making it feel like it just meshed well. So a lot of us were rearranging the questions, the orders of the questions, trying to make everything complement each other. So that way, like when the participants are going to one question and then the next question will kind of like link towards it. So we tried to do it to the best of our ability, but I just feel like if we also had those detailed questions that my group discussed, and we all kind of came to a consensus on, then we would have maybe